The phone was ringing. My father's name lit up the screen like a warning sign I should have heeded years ago. I knew what this call would bring, the ultimatum, the choice that would split my world in half. I answered on the fourth ring. "You're killing this family." His voice cut through the silence of my dorm room like a blade. No hello, no pretense. Just the cold fury I'd grown up walking on eggshells around. "Dad, I just don't." The words came out sharp and final. "You think you're so smart with your computer science degree and your big dreams. You think you know better than me. Let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. It helps me more than you know. If you've ever felt this way, tell me in the comments." I read all of them. My hands were shaking. 21 years old, and his voice still made me feel like that scared kid hiding in my bedroom while he screamed at my mother downstairs. "This isn't about knowing better. This is about my future." He laughed. A bitter, hollow sound that made my stomach twist. "Your future? Boy, you don't have a future if you keep defying me. You drop out of that college right now, come home and work in the family business like I've been telling you, or you're dead to me. Dead. Do you understand what that means?" The silence stretched between us like a chasm. I could hear my roommate's music through the thin walls. Normal college sounds. Normal life happening around me while mine crumbled. "I'm not dropping out." The words came out quieter than I intended, but they carried the weight of every dream I'd ever had. "Then we're done. You hear me? Done. Don't come home for Christmas. Don't call when you need money. Don't come crying to me when your fancy education gets you nowhere. You're not my son anymore." The line went dead. I sat there staring at my phone, watching his name disappear from the screen. The dorm room felt smaller suddenly, the walls pressing in, my chest tight like someone had wrapped chains around my ribs and pulled. 21 years of being his son, gone in 30 seconds. But here's the thing about rock bottom. Once you hit it, there's nowhere to go but up, and I was done falling. The next 3 years became a blur of determination and exhaustion. While other students complained about classes, I dove into code like it was oxygen. While they partied on weekends, I hunted for internships. While they stumbled home drunk, I stayed up until dawn perfecting projects that would make professors stop and stare. My father's voice became a ghost that haunted quiet moments. "You'll never amount to anything without me." The words would surface during all-nighters, during job interviews, during the moments when doubt crept in like poison. But ghosts can't touch you when you refuse to believe in them. Junior year brought the first real victory. Google's recruitment team visited campus for their summer internship program. The competition was brutal. Hundreds of students, dozens of interviews, technical challenges that made grown programmers weep. I walked into that interview room with my father's rejection letter still bleeding in my chest. But I'd learned something in those years of silence. Pain could be fuel if you knew how to burn it right. The technical interview lasted 4 hours. Algorithms, system design, problem-solving puzzles that would make your brain hurt just thinking about them. But every question they threw at me, I caught. Every challenge they presented, I solved. Not because I was smarter than everyone else, because I was hungrier. "We'll be in touch," the recruiter said as I left. The same thing they told everyone. The same polite dismissal that usually meant no. 2 weeks later, my phone rang. Google's area code. "Congratulations. We'd like to offer you a position in our summer internship program." I stood in my apartment staring out the window at nothing and everything. 3 years ago, my father had tried to bury my dreams. Instead, he'd watered them with his cruelty, and now they were growing beyond anything he could have imagined. The internship was everything I'd dreamed and more. 12 weeks of working alongside some of the brightest minds in tech, building products that millions of people would use. Learning from engineers who shaped the future every day they came to work. But the real gift wasn't the knowledge or the experience. It was the confidence, the unshakable certainty that I belonged here. That my father's vision of my future had been a lie he'd tried to sell me, and I'd refused to buy. The final week of the internship brought another phone call. My manager, this time, not a recruiter. "We've been watching your work this summer. Your performance has been exceptional. We'd like to extend a full-time offer for after graduation." The salary figure she mentioned made my head spin. More money than my father made in 3 years running his small-town auto shop. More than I'd ever imagined possible. But the money wasn't the victory. The victory was proving that his version of my story had been fiction. Senior year flew by in a haze of final projects and job preparation. My classmates stressed about finding positions while I quietly prepared for a future my father had declared impossible. Every assignment completed felt like another brick in the wall I was building between his expectations and my reality. Graduation day arrived with spring sunshine and the kind of hope that makes your chest feel too small to contain everything you're feeling. My mother came without telling him. We'd spoken in secret over the years, our relationship conducted in whispered phone calls and careful text messages. She cried when they called my name, sobbed actually, right there in the auditorium, full of families celebrating their children's achievements. All those years of watching me crumble under his criticism, and here I was, walking across a stage to claim a future he tried to steal from me. After the ceremony, I held my graduation cap in my hands, the tassel that had just moved from right to left, marking the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. 4 years of late nights and caffeine and determination all wrapped up in black polyester and cardboard. That's when the idea hit me. Not revenge, something cleaner than that, something that would speak louder than any argument I could make. That evening, I drafted the email, not to my father directly. That would have felt too much like begging for his attention. Instead, I sent it to my mother with instructions. Mom, could you make sure Dad sees this? I think it's time he knew how his dead son turned out. Attached to the email were 3 things: a photo of my graduation cap, a screenshot of my LinkedIn profile showing my new title, software engineer at Google, and a copy of my offer letter with the salary highlighted in yellow. I didn't write a long explanation, didn't rehash old arguments or air old grievances. Just a simple message. Thought you should know your dead son graduated summa cum laude and will be starting at Google next month. The funeral for the failure you predicted can be canceled. 3 days later, my phone rang. His number again, after almost 4 years of silence. This time, I let it go to voicemail. The message was different than I expected. No anger, no shouting, just a broken man trying to find words for something he'd never learned to say. Son, I got your mother's email. I saw the pictures. I don't know how to. I was wrong. I was wrong about everything. I thought I was protecting you from disappointment, but I was just scared. Scared you'd try for something big and fail like I did, but you didn't fail. You flew so high I can't even see you anymore. His voice cracked on the last few words. I know I don't deserve it, but if you ever want to talk to your old man again, I'll be here. I'll be here waiting for as long as it takes. I played that voicemail 17 times before I finally deleted it. And then 17 times more from the deleted folder. The thing about vindication is that it never feels quite like you imagine it will. I thought proving him wrong would feel like winning, like standing on a mountain peak with my arms raised in victory. Instead, it felt like standing in an empty room looking at the wreckage of a relationship that might have been beautiful if fear hadn't gotten in the way. But here's what I learned in those 4 years of silence. Sometimes you have to be willing to lose everything to discover who you really are. Sometimes you have to let someone declare you dead to find out how powerfully you can live. My first day at Google, I walked through those doors carrying more than just my laptop and ambitions. I carried the weight of every doubt that had ever been planted in my mind and the strength I'd built uprooting them one by one. The office buzzed with the energy of people building the future. Conversations about artificial intelligence and quantum computing drifted past my desk. Problems that would have seemed impossible a few years ago treated like Tuesday afternoon puzzles. My manager introduced me to the team. This is our new software engineer. Graduated top of his class and had one of the strongest internship performances we've seen. I shook hands and smiled and felt something settle into place in my chest. Not happiness exactly, something deeper than that. The quiet satisfaction of becoming exactly who you were meant to be despite someone trying to convince you it was impossible. That evening, I called my mother. How's work, honey? It's good, Mom, really good. A pause. Then, carefully, your father asks about you sometimes. I know. He's proud of you. He won't say it to anyone else, but he tells me all the time how proud he is. Pride. The word hung between us like a bridge I wasn't sure I was ready to cross. He had a funny way of showing it. I know, baby. I know. He's not good with words when it matters. Never has been. But seeing what you accomplished, it changed something in him. Made him look at his own choices differently. I stared out my apartment window at the Google campus glowing in the distance. All those late nights studying. All those moments when I almost gave up. All those times I wondered if he might be right about me being destined for failure. Mom, do you know what the hardest part was? It wasn't the coursework or the job interviews or any of that. It was learning to believe in myself when the person who was supposed to believe in me first had already given up. She was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was thick with tears. You're stronger than both of us put together. You always have been. 6 months into my role at Google, I got promoted. Team lead on a project that would touch millions of users. 25 years old and managing engineers who were older and more experienced but somehow less hungry. The project launched to rave reviews. Tech blogs wrote articles about the innovative features we'd built. My manager pulled me aside and mentioned words like fast track and exceptional potential. That night, I did something I've been avoiding for almost 5 years. I looked up my father's auto shop online. The website was ancient. Reviews mentioned outdated equipment and service that felt stuck in the past. A small business in a small town doing small things for small reasons. For the first time since that phone call, I felt something other than anger when I thought about him, something closer to sadness. He'd been so afraid of me failing that he tried to trap me in his own limitations, so convinced that dreaming big meant inevitable disappointment that he tried to kill my dreams before they could die naturally. But dreams, I'd learned, were harder to kill than he'd imagined. The 1-year anniversary of my graduation came and went without ceremony. I was deep into a new project, leading a team building features for Google's next big product launch. The work was challenging and exhausting, and exactly what I'd imagined my future could be when I was that scared college student choosing between his approval and my dreams. That's when the second letter arrived, not from my father this time, from my mother, but in her handwriting, with her words. Your father had a heart attack last week. He's okay, but it was bad enough to scare him. Scared me too. He's been asking if you might consider calling him, not demanding, not expecting. Just asking. I told him I'd pass along the message, but the choice is yours. It's always been yours. I read that letter sitting in my car in the Google parking lot, surrounded by Tesla and BMWs and the quiet hum of people living lives my father had convinced himself were impossible for people like us. The choice. Always the choice. For 4 years, I'd carried his rejection like armor, proof that I could survive anything, overcome any obstacle, succeed despite any criticism. But armor gets heavy when you wear it long enough. And maybe, just maybe, it was time to find out who I was without it. That weekend, I drove home for the first time in 5 years. The town looked smaller than I remembered. The auto shop sat on the same corner, but the building seemed tired now, worn down by years and weather and the weight of dreams deferred. I found him in the garage, bent over an engine, his hands stained with the same grease I remembered from childhood. Older now, grayer, moving more carefully than the man who used to seem invincible. He looked up when he heard my footsteps. For a moment, neither of us moved. 5 years of silence stretched between us like a canyon. Son. Just that. One word carrying the weight of everything we'd broken and everything we might still be able to fix. Dad. He set down his wrench and wiped his hands on a rag that had seen better decades. You look good, successful. I am successful. The words came out harder than I intended, but I couldn't help it. 5 years of proving him wrong don't disappear in a single conversation. I know, I saw the graduation pictures, saw the Google thing on your LinkedIn. Your mother shows me everything. He was watching me carefully, like I might disappear if he said the wrong thing. I was wrong about you, wrong about everything. I let my own failures convince me that failure was inevitable, and I tried to pass that fear on to you. I'm sorry doesn't cover it, but I'm sorry anyway. The apology hung in the air between us, not enough to erase years of damage, but maybe enough to start building something new on top of the ruins. You didn't just doubt my ability to succeed, I said quietly. You made me doubt it too. Do you know how long it took me to believe I deserved the opportunities I was earning? How many nights I lay awake wondering if you were right about me? His face crumpled. I was trying to protect you. From what? From becoming everything I was capable of becoming. From the disappointment. From trying for something big and failing like I did. But I didn't fail. No, he said, and his voice was soft now, proud in a way I'd never heard before. You flew higher than I ever imagined anyone could fly. We stood there in his little garage, surrounded by the tools and grease and small-town limitations he'd tried to make my ceiling. But I'd learned to build my own sky, and now I was looking down at him from heights he'd convinced himself were impossible. The conversation didn't fix everything, couldn't fix everything. Some wounds need time to heal properly, and some relationships need to be rebuilt from the ground up rather than patched together. But it was a start. Driving back to my apartment that evening, I thought about the package I'd sent him years ago. My graduation cap and job offer, mailed like evidence in a trial where I was both prosecutor and defendant. Proof that his verdict on my future had been wrong. I thought at the time that vindication would be the end of the story, the final chapter where the doubted son proves the doubting father wrong and walks away victorious. But stories, I learned, are more complicated than that. Sometimes, vindication is just the beginning. Sometimes proving someone wrong opens the door to helping them understand how they could be right next time. 2 years later, I was promoted again. Senior software engineer with a team of 12 and a salary that still made me do double takes when I saw it on my pay stubs. My father called to congratulate me. Our conversations now a monthly ritual that was slowly becoming comfortable rather than careful. I told everyone at the coffee shop about my son at Google, he said during one of those calls, and I could hear the pride in his voice. The same pride he should have had all along, finally finding its way to the surface. Thanks, Dad. No, thank you. For not giving up when I tried to make you give up. For becoming the man I was too scared to let you become. The thing about vindication is that the sweetest version isn't the kind that leaves someone else demolished. It's the kind that lifts them up to see the view from where you're standing. The kind that transforms rejection into respect and fear into admiration. My graduation cap sits on my desk at Google now, not as a trophy, but as a reminder. A reminder that sometimes the people who try to limit us are just trying to protect us from their own limitations. And sometimes the greatest gift you can give them is proving that their limitations don't have to be yours. The phone rings sometimes with his number, and now I answer on the first ring. We talk about work and family and the future I'm building that's bigger than anything he imagined possible. And sometimes in those conversations, I hear the father he could have been all along if fear hadn't convinced him that love looked like limitation. I mailed him a graduation cap and a job offer 5 years ago. What I received in return was something more valuable than vindication. I received the chance to rewrite both our stories, to transform his narrow vision of what was possible into a wider window through which we could both see the sky. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't proving someone wrong. Sometimes it's helping them understand how they could have been right all along if they'd simply believed in a bigger version of possible. But first, you have to be willing to build that bigger version by yourself. You have to be ready to become your own foundation when everyone else tries to convince you that you're built to crumble. And when you finally stand on the summit you climbed against all their predictions, you get to choose whether vindication feels like the end of the story or the beginning of a better one. I chose beginning, and that, more than any job title or salary or recognition, has made all the difference.